Hello, everybody. This is Mike from the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. My wife Beth and I would like to invite you to join us each week as we examine life at the intersection of marriage, family, careers, and ministry. Through 28 years of ministry, 26 years of marriage, 23 years of professional careers, and 21 years of being parents to 3 kids, our fun and honest discussions promise to have something for everyone. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. This is Mike.
And Beth.
Which Beth?
What do you mean, which Beth?
Like, if you were going to describe yourself, like I said, Beth, if I met you for the first time, I said, hey, what is your name? What would you tell me?
My name's Beth.
Beth what?
Beth G.
Just Beth G?
Beth Mabe Giannopoulos.
Okay, why do you say that?
Because I need to pay tribute to my maiden name.
Do you?
As a feminist. Yes. I mean, you're lucky I took your name.
Well, okay, that brings up my point. That's exactly my point. So this past week,
Oh boy, here
we're
we
going to
go.
start. This is a hot show. I told Beth I am excited about today's show. I've jotted down some great topics that Beth has no idea what I'm going to talk about, and I'm coming out of the gate hot. This past week, Josh and I were in the car, and we tried to call you, and you have 2 phones because you're twice as important as everybody else.
Yes, I am.
So we
I probably need 3.
We called your home phone. And it rang, and you didn't pick up as usual. And your voicemail picked up.
Yeah.
And it said, hey, this is Beth Giannopoulos. Thanks for calling, yada, yada, yada. All right.
My home one. Okay. Yeah.
So then...
I don't even remember what it says.
So then, that's what it says.
Okay.
So then I was like, well, we'll just try on our work phone. So we called that one. Again, you didn't pick up. It went to voicemail. And the voicemail there said, hello, this is Beth Mabe Giannopoulos.
Yeah.
So you're Beth Giannopoulos on your personal phone. You're Beth Mabe Giannopoulos on your work phone. Josh is like, what? Like she acts like her name is hyphenated. I was like, I know, it's not.
It is my legal middle name. I changed Mabe to my legal middle name. And
Only at work? That's what I'm saying.
No.
Where's the consistency?
Well, normally it's probably a mistake. I usually say Beth Mabe Giannopoulos, so I probably should go back and fix my home phone.
I think you should go back and change your work one.
No, because everyone from college and high school knows me as Beth Mabe, and we need to hold on to who I was.
Oh, yeah.
And
You went to a tiny high school and tiny college. There ain't like that many people know you.
I don't care. I am going to, again, we could consider, I could just, get rid of the Giannopoulos name, but I like to have the same name as my children. So... I'll keep it, I guess. I'll think about keeping it if you're nice to me.
Well, Josh and I thought it was ridiculous that you had 2 different voicemails with 2 different names.
I don't like the way you're tainting poor, sweet, innocent Josh's mind with your
You know Josh would feel this
Yes,
way.
well, yeah, but y'all just don't understand because you don't have to change your name. That's why. As men, you don't have to do that.
Here's the thing. I'm thinking about changing my name.
Okay. To what? Mabe?
Never.
So then we can be really confusing.
Beth Mabe.
No, no, I'm just saying I would say Beth Giannopoulos and you'd be Michael Mabe. Anyway.
That doesn't flow very well.
Yeah.
So, when you go to a Greek restaurant and you order...
Oh, yes. I think I know where you're going. When I tell them my name and they get excited and think I'm Greek.
No.
Oh, okay.
When you order, and I know the name, but I want to hear how you say it. I would call it some type of wrap that has sometimes chicken, sometimes pork. It's on a pita bread. There's tzatziki sauce. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What do you call that?
What? I'm thinking right now a minute. Oh, I know. There's I'm blanking.
Gyro.
Oh, yeah. Because so people...
What would you call it?
I guess I'd call it gyro, but that's not right. Isn't it gyro or gyro? I don't know. I'd have to ask Google, and then it's going to talk to me.
Yeah, I think in the South, it's, I've heard people say gyro or a gyro.
Right, because in the South, we change, it's there's this place in Winston-Salem that's spelled B-U-E-N-A, and I'll let people think about how they would do it, but we call it Buna. It's Buena Vista, not Buena, again. So we kind of do that to words in the South.
So the G's
Are silent?
No, the G's are Y's in Greek.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a euro.
Oh, so you wouldn't be Giannopoulos.
No, I don't think my name ever should have been Giannopoulos.
Right.
I think Giannopoulos is like the Americanized, even Southern Americanized version of my name.
Yeah.
I think my name, if I went over to Greece, went back to the homeland, to my mother country, if they saw my name, I think they would pronounce it Yiannopoulos.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So my name should be Michael Yiannopoulos.
So you should spell it the way it sounds? Is that what you're
I'm
thinking?
saying that I would spell it the same, but the G is not a hard G. It's a Y. It's Yiannopoulos.
So you're just going to start telling people to pronounce it that way so we can be even more confusing.
Well,
because right now, when I go to the doctor, they're like, Beth, Yiannopoulos or something. And so, so we should make it more confusing.
Well,
for sure.
I looked it up on an app. I looked it up online.
Yeah.
And there's a website, I don't know, let's just call it pronounce.com, something like that. And so I typed in Giannopoulos and I hit pronounce. And it said the English translation is Giannopoulos.
Oh, okay.
I went to another website and put in the name, and globally it's pronounced Yiannopoulos. Mm-hmm. So if I go anywhere else but the U.S.,
right,
it is Yiannopoulos. Mm-hmm. I think I'm 50. I think the odds of me being able to change my name, the pronunciation of my name, is a losing battle. But I think my kids could do it. Yeah. I think Josh could go off to college. What's your name? Yeah. And say Joshua Yiannopoulos.
But I just think if we don't program him to do it now, he's going to forget. That's those things that you just start, and then he'll be like Giannopoulos by accident. People will be like, wait a minute, what's your name? Are you lying about who you are? Are you an undercover spy?
I personally think Michael Yiannopoulos sounds...
It sounds more Greek.
It sounds fancy.
It does.
It sounds fancy.
It does sound fancy. I kind of like it. I wish we'd done that.
Well, let's do it. That's what I'm saying. Beth Mabe Yiannopoulos.
I can't even pull it off with my Southern accent, though. It's still not going to sound right. I'm going to have to go practice.
Well,
but I don't have time for that right now.
Well.
By the way, I don't know if it's on the list, but I don't know if you remember, we were supposed to talk about how people view you in real life versus this podcast, and if it's the same.
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure you wouldn't forget.
No. I just wanted the name thing got me going when I started thinking about your name, and then I started thinking about my name, and I don't think you should include Mabe when you leave your messages. I'm just throwing that out there. It should be Beth, either Giannopoulos or Yiannopoulos, either one. You could even change it to Beth Yiannopoulos if you want.
Guess what?
You sound more ethnic.
You want to know what?
What?
I don't care. I don't care what y'all think.
Who's
I'm
y'all?
probably you and Josh. I'm probably going to go and change my personal message. It was an oversight. I mean, I put my resume, my signature line, everything that I create has my maiden name in it as well. Everything. And if you look me up online, that should be what you're going to get hits for first, I hope.
All right.
You're not going to win that battle. Because I struggled to
I don't care about winning the battle with you. I think in the popular vote battle, I would win. I think most people listening would be like, well, that's absurd. Why would Beth be putting her middle name into this?
I think your guy friends who want to irritate me will say that. Or maybe some really old school ladies.
I don't know any other women, even your age, that puts in their maiden name when they announce who they are.
It was a compromise I made with myself when I accepted changing my last name. That was my compromise.
I wouldn't have married you if you hadn't changed your last name.
Oh, please. Let's rewind time and go back and see. I don't believe that for a minute. No, I mean, but I'm not going... there's certain things that I will change and I will consider what everyone thinks. And then there's certain things like that I will not because
listen,
it's my name.
I knew you wouldn't change it. I knew that you would not go change.
Is this because you want to make this the poll question? You wanted to
No, it's not even the poll question.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to point it out to our listening audience that this is what I have to live with.
Well,
the Bible says, "Do not be double-minded," and I feel like you are.
Am I? Because I have.
Messages.
No, it just shows that I have enough love in my heart that I can hold on to the past and where I came from, and also the present and the future. There's enough love and enough of me to go around that I can embrace all these sides of who I am.
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right. let's move on to the poll question.
Yes.
Well, speaking of the poll question, since you just asked me what the new one would be, and we'll get to that in a minute. My idea.
Because in case people can't tell, I am generally clueless when I sit down to do this podcast.
She does. She has no idea.
Yeah.
We'll be in conversation, and I'll just pull up my phone, and I'll think to myself, that would be a good topic, and I'll write it down. Last week, we asked people TikTok or not.
Yes.
We asked them, and so...
Oh, and my mom is a huge fan of Instagram. We learned that.
We did learn that.
Yeah.
A mystery Instagram page we even know
she doesn't even have Instagram, but she voted for it.
So, we used to do a poll question when we first started the podcast. Yeah. And that's because we used to put this out on Spotify creators, and that's where it would come out from. And Spotify had a very easy... there was an ability to create a poll question.
Well, and that was when we were very small and had a very small listening audience.
Correct.
Yeah.
But then we switched over to a different distribution platform, and they don't have that as a feature. But I never really thought about doing it anymore.
Yeah.
So this past weekend, and I'll get to my weekend here in a minute, I went to Tantrum Con, which is a board game convention. And while we were there, two of our listeners were there, Sam and Shelly. And I got to hang out with them a little bit and play some games. And Shelly asked me, she said, why don't you do a poll question anymore? And I was like, well, it was just tough to do or whatnot. So this poll question is in honor of her. I figured out a way. You can do this on Facebook.
Okay.
I just never paid attention, but you can put up a poll on Facebook. So I went to our Facebook page and I put up a poll. If you had to give up one of your social medias, what would be the hardest? And I put up Facebook, Instagram,
Yes.
TikTok, or X.
This also probably tells us a lot about the demographics of our listeners, or at least the listeners who vote in poll questions. But keep going.
Yeah. So number one by a landslide
Facebook
was Facebook.
I just knew it. Yeah.
At 68%.
Yeah.
Okay. 68% of the people could not give up, would not want to give up.
Because most of our listeners are like our age.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 15% said Instagram.
Including my mom, who doesn't have an Instagram account.
10% said TikTok.
So we do have a few of those young ones.
They were both old, or at least one of them was.
Okay, please don't go look and see who you think. Please don't. Oh gosh. Anyway,
and 5%, one vote for X.
Was that you?
No.
I was like, who was that?
That was all Crystal. Crystal loves a good conspiracy website. And I feel like X is there.
I could see that. Yes, that tracks.
I was having a conversation today with a friend. We'll call him Ross. And Ross said he struggled between Facebook and X.
Really?
And he said Facebook is more useful.
Yes.
X is more fun.
Oh.
And I kind of thought that kind of sounds like the old, this is the kind of person you date, this is the kind of person you marry.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, Facebook is very useful, it's resourceful, but X is fun to jump on.
If you're just like, I just want to go have a fun night,
scroll through, look at ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, that's where you go. Got it.
So there you go. So Facebook won the poll for this week.
Not surprised.
Let's do another update.
Okay.
Let's talk about the colonoscopy.
Oh gosh, yes.
I know last week everybody was just on pins and needles.
Yes, wanting to know what happened.
And now we'd like to get to the bottom of it.
Good puns and things there. Play some words. Yeah.
How was it? What was it? Everything you thought it would be and more? What was your colonoscopy like?
I am glad that I do not have to do it again for 10 years.
Because you're healthy.
I am. And for me, I'd already had, I'm not going through it all again, but there's the physical prep. There's a little bit of the anxiety. They had a little bit of a delay back there. It was extremely cold. So I didn't have my phone or anything and no TV in the room where I was waiting. So I just sat there and stared at the wall and was inside my head, which is generally not a good place for me to be, which is why I tend to always have a book or something, or a podcast or something like that. So I just got to sit with my thoughts for a good bit before I went back. But once I finally went back and did it, it's just like everybody else.
You could use that time to pray, to meditate.
Okay.
Thank God for your husband.
Yeah. Anyway, but just like everybody said, when you wake up, you're just like, oh, I'm here. It's over. I'm done. And you feel great. I mean,
you didn't hold the mirror? You didn't watch?
I didn't know. I did read when I was reading about it, because I think I said on here, or maybe that last week was the one where you had the failed podcast, but part of my thing is losing control, and like, what will I say or do when I'm out of it, and I don't like that thought. So I did read somebody that was like, you can do it without anything, like any type of anesthesia or something. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that.
I don't think it's painful.
It is if you have inflammation, and that's what said. They said that there's one turn that you feel it as they go over. Like, it was on Reddit, my new fave. You should have put that on the poll. Anyway, but they said that but people who have like Crohn's or inflammation and things said it can be very painful, and you don't know sometimes, if you're going to have anything. So anyway, of course, I had the anesthesia and then went to eat and everything afterwards, and was able to eat and be a normal functioning person again, which was really nice. But I do have to say, that morning, doing the last bit of the prep, I couldn't drink it all. I told them, I got to the point, I woke up and I was like, there's no way this is going to stay down. I was just, it was bad.
And you almost backed out.
I did, yeah. But then I was like, I've gone through all this. There's no way I'm backing out now.
I almost triggered you into backing out.
Yeah, you did.
I threatened. I was like, I'm going to ask your parents to video you when you wake up yes. so I can see all the crazy things you say.
Yes, and
you lost your mind.
Yes, because
you're like, no, if they're going to do that, I'm not doing it. No. I mean, it was like hanger times 10. It was like the Incredible Hulk of hangry.
Yes, and there's a lot of things I'm not a control freak about, but like being in control of myself, I guess, like what comes out of my mouth, what I'm saying, I want to control that. Yeah. So.
All right. So
and the world is better for it than I do.
So you would tell everyone over the age of 50, go get your colonoscopy. You can live through it. It's going to be fine. Yes,
and I would just say, just that day, of course, you take it easy, and then the day you have it, and so you just block 2 days off, and you just know, plan it at a time. When like you don't have anything going on, So I mean, I would 100% tell people to do it, because I think you need to know what's going on in there.
I got a story for you I hadn't told you yet about a colonoscopy, mine in particular. So the other day, Beth, I was talking to my mom, and mom was like, well, I guess, Beth's colonoscopy went okay and everything was fine. I was like, yeah, everything went fine with it, blah, blah, blah. Well, then this is probably like over the weekend. Well, then Mom said on like Monday or so, she told my dad, she was like, well, Beth's colonoscopy went good. Everything was fine. And Dad's like, oh, okay. And then he said, when is Michael going to have one?
Oh,
and my mom said, are you joking?
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you mean? No. And he's like, Michael, shouldn't he be having one? In last September, so 5 months ago, Beth shockingly was at Disney with Maria when I had my colonoscopy. So my parents had to take me, and by parents I mean Mom and Dad.
And so Dad has just blocked it out and forgotten. He wants you to have another one.
We went to the hospital. We rode in the golf cart because they're doing all this construction at the hospital. They sat there. We all went out to eat afterwards. He doesn't remember any of this.
It made quite an impression on him.
My mom was like, don't you remember? And she rattled off everything I just described. And Dad was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So,
wow.
There you go. So,
well, okay then.
God bless him. At least I know I get my memory loss.
Yeah, honestly. It's honestly. Yeah.
So, my weekend, I was at Tantrum Con, which is a pretty large board game convention in Charlotte. About 1,200 or so people show up and play board games. And this is, I don't know, I think 2021 may have been my first year. So this is like my fourth time going, and me and a group of friends go down every year. And it's a blast. It's literally like from the minute you get there to the minute you go to bed, it's just board games. Mm-hmm. Everybody's playing board games, thousands of board games. And some of the games you've played before, most of them I try to play are brand new. I like to play stuff I've never played before. But I got to have a great time. Our friend Doug, and I'm going to have Doug on the podcast pretty soon.
Do I get to be on with him?
Sure, we can. That'll be a weird thing. 3 of us on.
Doug's really trendy, kind of,
He's
according
a
to my
hipster.
kids. Yeah. Yeah.
But Doug is a board game designer as a hobby. He's an IT guy by trade, but he's a board game designer. He has an award-winning board game he put out several years ago called Garden Dice that won some awards, and now he's been working on his new game, which is now about ready to go on Kickstarter. So he had 2 prototype copies, and he had them set up. He had a demo table, and he had them set up at Tantrum Con. So it was really neat to see Doug being able to like teach his game to people that this was the first time any of these people even had a chance to play it. So it was kind of fun to see somebody who had a dream and put something together and put it out there and have people critique it. You know, I mean, you got to have thick skin. You know, some people are like, why is this rule? Why is this?
Yeah, and we've talked about before, when you create things, that's like part of your heart. You're like hanging out there on your sleeve, you know, when you write or compose music or create a board game.
And the game is really fun. The theme is unique. It's like a 18th century furniture making game, which sounds like what in the world? But the way the playability is and the design and everything, it is a beautifully made game. The playability is fun. It's easy to learn. You play it in about 45 minutes to an hour. But it's a blast. We both have been play testing it for a while. Beth and I have. And so now it's finally at the point where others get to test it. And it was kind of fun. It was fun to see Doug doing that.
Yeah.
I found a new t-shirt for Beth. You want to tell them about your t-shirt and what it means?
So he brought in this shirt, and it has a big AP on it, which it is not for the AP exams, for the people who think that, but it is for analysis paralysis. This is something that, depending on the game, I sometimes have, as do others. There are certain games that Mike doesn't even want to play with me because he knows that I'm going to think through like the next 15 moves before I make a move. And so that's when you have analysis paralysis.
Well, it's not even thinking through the next 15. It's even that one.
Yeah.
Like if you have more than 1 or 2 options, you freeze. And that's analysis paralysis. You're over analyzing what to do.
Yes.
It paralyzes you to where you can't make the move in a reasonable amount of time.
And the other thing most games I can still do that even with multiple options, but I'm really bad on like betting games where you have to bet. I do not like those.
You don't like betting, you don't like auction games.
I don't like auction games. Things like that stress me out, and that is when I get analysis paralysis. Yeah.
Well, even like 5 tribes though, I feel like you get.
That's
but
the
that's
one
the game though that it has a bunch of different moves.
Yes.
Like you can do a lot.
Exactly.
You make one move, but you got to decide which.
But you've got like 30 options.
Yeah.
You know, and each of those options leads to multiple moves for your opponent. And that's why that one gives me analysis paralysis, because it's not like there's 4 choices. There's literally sometimes like 30 choices.
And it said, your shirt says AP University.
Yes.
What's it say in the tagline? It says something like, where overthinkers go. I don't know, something like that.
And let's just say, I don't just have that overthinking syndrome. I had therapy today, and I talked to my therapist about this part of me that overthinks. And I do it with everything to my detriment sometimes. Like, I even sit there and try to, in my head, why am I feeling this feeling? Analyzing my feelings. What led to this feeling? You know, like, I try to intellectualize, to think through everything with logic or what have you. And there's some things you can't do that. And
no, you always ask me that, especially with our kids. You're like, you're trying to understand why they did something or said something. And I'm just like, Beth, because they're morons. Like, sometimes that's the answer. Is there's no logical
because the
explanation.
frontal lobe is not completely developed.
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, they said, well, that don't mean anything.
Yeah.
You know what they said.
But again, but this is like one of my very strong, I guess, characteristics. I don't think most people talk about very much, but you know, I do. I intellectualize thinking through, which plays into a lot of things, and can be good and can be bad, but analyzing feelings like that, analyzing other people, even in my faith journey, sometimes that has been a struggle, because again, if you're trying to intellectualize something that's also partly experiential and spiritual, you can't intellectualize everything. And so that's hard for me.
Well, and I think that's what makes you a good lawyer.
Probably, yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what you want. You want somebody that's going to
look at every side.
Look at every possibility, and not just go with the first thing they thought of.
Or like I tell my kids, if you want somebody that can look at something and tell you every way that it can go wrong, come to me. I've got it down. Mm-hmm. Highly skilled at that.
Yeah. Part of that's attorney built in.
Yeah.
Part of it you got honestly from your parents.
Yeah.
Your mom called last night about something, and I'm like, hey, Shirley, always looking on the bright side of life. She was like, well, I'm just trying to think through everything. And I'm like, yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. Do have to think through.
So that's the poll question.
Oh.
I want to ask people, like, AP or not. Like, do you overanalyze or do you go with it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so is analysis paralysis part of who you are? And it doesn't, in board games is where we make fun of it, but you're right. It could be anything. Making a decision on what to order in a restaurant.
That's what I was just going to say. People that know me and go out to eat with me are like, oh yeah, we've seen this, because I read the menu, I ask all these questions, I want to know how other people have received the item. Then I have to listen. Generally, I tell everybody else to order first, because I don't want to necessarily hear something that I didn't see or know about, because sometimes people will like change something up and I'll be like, oh, that sounds good. I want to do that. Yeah.
Well, this is what I don't get. You always ask the waiter or waitress, is this good? Do you like it?
Well, I know it's their opinion.
Everybody has different taste buds.
Yes, but sometimes they will tell me certain things are very popular, or this is our best seller, but here's why you do it. It's not because if they just say it's good, I'm like, okay. But I like it because sometimes they will say, well, I don't like it and this is why. And they may elaborate to say, I don't like it because it's too spicy. Well, then I know that I may still like it. You know, I like it but if they tell me they don't like it because it's too greasy, I'm like, oh, I won't like that either. Because usually by asking them their opinion on it, they elaborate a little bit. They throw in a little bit. They don't feel like they can just say, yes, it's good. I think they feel like they have to tell me why to support their answer. They're supporting their work like teachers ask them, like students to do, you know?
Yeah, I agree. So that'll be the poll question is, do you overanalyze? Do you have analysis paralysis?
Right. And I'm sure people are going to say it depends, but because even for me, there's things I don't.
If it takes you longer than 3 seconds to decide if you have analysis paralysis, then you probably have it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I'll probably put, do you have analysis paralysis? Yes, no, or I can't decide.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll probably be the 3.
Yeah. And if you have a simple decision like, what am I going to pack for my overnight trip? And you start thinking through, well, I may need a raincoat, but what if there's a snowstorm that comes through, even though it's supposed to be 90, you know, and if you start doing all of that, you have it. You overthink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's that. So I got Beth the analysis paralysis t-shirt.
Which I love.
Yeah. I also had an interesting conversation. I'm going to circle back. I'm going to bring it back up with Shelly. Shelly and Sam and Doug and I were together at one point. And I did something, not really thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And Shelly was like, oh. And I was like, what? And she was like, you are a really kind and caring person.
Oh, I know. Doug wanted bananas on his pancake, and you gave him some of your bananas.
I gave him some bananas off my plate.
Yes.
So he would have banana pancakes.
Yeah.
And Shelly was like, oh, she's like, you're really kind and caring. She was like, I wish people could get to know you this way. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, on your podcast, you come across really sarcastic and mean.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from other people.
You've also heard you have judgy eyes. Remember, they said that one time.
And that is the truth. I do have judgy eyes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you want to know if you've given me a dumb answer, just look at my eyes.
Yes.
Because I will look through you like you are
almost like
idiot.
Lasers. Yes.
Like, is that really
yes.
what you thought was a good answer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so Shelly told me that. And this bothered me a little bit in that, and I'm going to, this is going to get into a little bit of a story. And so a few years ago, several years ago now, man, I went on a spiritual retreat. And the leader of that spiritual retreat was this guy named Ian Crone. Mm-hmm. And Ian Crone wrote the best-selling book, The Road Back to You, which has to do with the Enneagram. And that's something you and I can discuss sometime on the show.
And we can let everybody guess. The poll question is, guess which number, Mike and Beth.
Yeah, we can do that. That's good. But
Anyway.
we'll dive into the Enneagram one week. But you and I both are big proponents of the Enneagram. Well, Ian was leading this little retreat. There's only like 12 of us. So it was like 12 of us and Ian. And we were going through different things having to do with the Enneagram. And I was talking about these like, negative voices I hear in my head and whatnot. And Ian asked me the question when he found out I was a pastor. He said, "Why does your congregation love you?" And I thought about it. And I said, "I think they love me because." And I started giving him reasons. And he said, "No, you're telling me what you do that your congregation loves. Why do they love you? Not what you do for them. Why do they love you?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like, I don't, I've never thought about that." And he said, "Well, okay, well, why do you love you?" And I could not answer that question.
Yeah.
I said, "I have no idea." Like, honestly, I thought, do I have permission to love myself?
Right.
Like it just.
Is that a thing?
Is that a thing? And he was like, "Well, you've got to figure that out before you can figure out anything else. You've got to know why you love you." And so that set me on this journey of sorts to try to figure out, what do I love about myself? Like, what is one thing that I can hang on to? And it's not that, and it's, I'm not perfect, obviously, in any way, shape, or form. But what is the one thing that I can say at the end of the day, this is who I am, I'm proud of this, and I love myself because of it. And when I discovered what that was about myself, then it was like an aha moment. This is why my church loves me. And not everyone loves me because of this.
Right.
There's a lot of people that have left because of this. But I love myself because at the end of the day, I'm genuine. What you see is what you get.
It's authenticity.
Yes. And I think that's what my congregations have always loved about me is the mic that's in the pulpit. Is the same mic they're going to have coffee with.
Yeah.
It's the same mic they're going to play board games with.
Yes.
It's the same mic they're going to play disc golf with. There's literally no difference.
Right.
I am the most genuine person I think you will ever find. That doesn't mean I'm great. That doesn't mean I'm super nice. It doesn't mean I'm super compassionate.
Right.
I think it's just, like you said, I'm authentic. What you see is what you get. I don't BS anybody. I don't become a chameleon, and try to like shape or morph into whatever the room needs me to be.
Right.
I am who I am.
Yeah.
So I think what struck me is when Shelley was like, "Well, you come across very sarcastic and mean on the podcast, but in real life, you're, you're kind and compassionate and caring."
Oh, did you have an existential crisis and you're like, "Oh, am I not being authentic on the podcast?"
Yes.
I was like,
And at first it bothered me a little bit. Like not what Shelley said.
Yeah.
I think what Shelley saw and heard was 100% right. So
Yeah.
this is not against anything she said. It was for me because I had that moment where, am I being someone I'm not? Either on the podcast or
out
in real life.
Yeah. Like was giving the bananas to Doug, not who you are, or is the podcast not? Something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Did those two
And I
line
think
up?
what I've come to is it's not either or, it's both and.
Yeah.
You can be all of these things.
Yeah.
The medium of the podcast allows me to be
Sarcastic.
fun and sarcastic, which can come across mean sometimes,
Yeah.
but I'm not bashing anybody.
Right,
I'm not hateful, I mean, people say I bully you, but that's just natural.
Well, you also tend to like, I guess, well, you can't know. I don't say know your audience on the podcast. Doesn't sound right, but like when you know the people that you say the things to know.
And
them.
I enjoy playing your foil. You're so good. You're such a good person,
Aw,
and
thanks.
you always have kind things to say. Like you're very guarded in what you say. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
Your filter is a lot better than mine. And so I do like pushing people's buttons and
well, and that's why you had a shirt that said the instigator.
Yeah.
The instigator, because you would like sometimes just like set things up for people, and not in a mean way, but just like, I'm just going to lob this out there and see what these folks do with that, like I'm going to stir the pot a little bit and then watch things unfold, just see what happens.
Yeah. So I think I'm both and.
Yeah.
I think I genuinely wanted to give Doug some bananas.
Yeah. You wanted to be compassionate.
But on the podcast, it allows me to be my sarcastic self.
Yeah.
My whatever. But why do you love yourself, Beth?
Oh, gosh. Is this, how transparent are we on this podcast?
Well, I mean, you may not have an answer, but, and that's to my listeners too. Like, the question I would love for all of our listeners to think about this week is, why do you love yourself? Mm-hmm. And not what you do for people.
Right.
Like, me being genuine doesn't do anything for anybody.
Right. It's just who you are.
It's just who I am. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're super caring. Maybe you're compassionate. It could be any kind of characteristic, mm-hmm. but what is it? Maybe you're loyal, like whatever it may be. Like, and you might be several things, but there's one thing that I think at the end of the day, everyone can say, this is what I love about myself. Mm-hmm. And this is why people love me. And they should match up. Like, why you love yourself should be the same reason people love you. And so, like I said, mine is, I think I'm genuine. And I think that's why people love me, the people who do love me. Some people can't handle that. Some people don't like that. And that's okay, and that's fine. But, that's not a poll question. That's just kind of a take it home and think about it kind of thing. Like, why do you love yourself? And I think God does give us permission to love ourselves. He loves us. And if he loves us, why can't we love ourselves? And I think too many people don't love themselves. They don't like the way they look. They don't like the way they talk. They don't like the way they think. They don't like...
And that tends to be what we focus on.
It is.
It's a lot easier if you're like, hey, Beth, why don't you list everything in the next hour that you don't like about yourself?
But look at how much of that is physical, though.
Yeah.
Like we've been trained in society to focus on our physical. And, and when you ask people, what do you love about yourself? Some people might say, we talked about your good teeth the other week, how pretty they are.
Yeah.
Not the cleanest, but very.
Okay.
But, I love my teeth. Or I love, if you work out a lot, I love my body, mm-hmm. my muscles, things like that. But again, that doesn't matter. I think if you can find that thing that you love about yourself that's on the inside, the outside doesn't matter nearly as much. You get to a place where you're like, I don't really care. I mean, I want to be healthy, but I don't care if I'm overweight a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't care if my hair's not perfect. I don't care if my hair's getting gray. I don't care, mm-hmm. Or if I make a mistake, I can shrug it off and say, all right, I screwed up. You lose a lot of pride and ego, mm-hmm. the bad side of pride and ego, when you find out you can love something about yourself on the inside. Mm-hmm. And that was just kind of a reminder for me at Tantrum Con in the conversation with Shelley and thinking through, am I caring and compassionate and kind, or am I sarcastic and mean? Yes. Mm-hmm. The answer is I'm all of those things, mm-hmm. but that's because I'm genuine. That what you hear on the podcast, what you see is what you get. But what about you, the listener? Why do you love yourself? And I think that's something that every human should have to figure out. And it took me a while. It wasn't like I left a retreat and had this epiphany and knew. It took me several months of thinking through things and praying through it. And before I kind of had the aha moment of, this is why I love me. Because at the end of the day, no one can say Mike G is fake. No one can say Mike Yiannopoulos is a fake guy.
That's right. Now, Mike, the Mike Giannopoulos could be, but not Mike Yiannopoulos. Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking about with mine, I would like to think it's like I'm compassionate and stuff, but sometimes, I am always compassionate, but sometimes people don't see that because they can't, I can't. And so, I don't know.
But does it matter if they see it?
I don't know.
You know, you just do. If you're compassionate and you do it out of
But also, I'm
impulse.
super sensitive and empathetic, but I don't necessarily like that about myself because I think that leads to a lot of pain and heartache for me. You know, that's a thing I've always wished I could change. So if we're looking at like what I think people may like about me that I also like about myself, I think for me it'd probably
love,
be
not just like. I'm talking love. That's a big difference. I'm gonna tell you, if I was you, what I would love about you.
Okay.
If I was Beth Yiannopoulos.
Beth May Yiannopoulos.
Beth May Yiannopoulos. We're not. I would love my passion.
Yeah.
You are one of the most passionate people I have ever met in my entire life. Everything you do is with passion. You parent with passion. You lead with passion. You work with passion. Like you're there. Like, and that's something a lot of people don't have that. You know, they don't have that passion that is their fuel, that drive, that fight. You know, they don't have that, and you do. And if I was Beth May Yiannopoulos, I would look in the mirror and say, I love my passion. Like, I love the passion inside of me. And if that's the thing you love the most, then again, the rest of it doesn't matter. How you look, how you sound, what you do. You know, it's just like, okay, this is just skin. You know, or this is just a house, or this is just a job. Like, it's the passion that is the thing that sets you apart. But I don't know. I'm not saying that you got to love that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if I were you, that's what I see in you that I would highlight.
Now, how are we going to make me and our listeners accountable to like ponder this at some point and come back with
I don't know if you can come back. I mean, I'm just saying,
because it may take different amounts of time for everybody to get there.
I'm just throwing it out there. I just thought, you know, as I was thinking through Tantrum Con, you know, it was like, oh, you know, it intrigued me about the podcast. So, so just last little bit of housekeeping stuff before we wrap up. Didn't mean to get so heavy today, but very thought-provoking.
Oh, well, like my women's retreat ended up being heavier than I thought it was going to be too, which is interesting because you just don't know which direction people will take it when you do something, you know?
Yeah, I heard nothing but great things about the women's retreat, so that was good on your end.
But we dug deep. I mean, I think if like, it's kind of interesting. It's like, can you really get a group of people sitting at a table who a lot of them, some didn't know anybody, you know, can they go deep quickly? And they did. But that's the credit of the people that showed up because they showed up, you know, kind of open and willing to work on things. So that was good.
All right. Anything else, Beth?
I don't think so. I think that's everything. Now that I have homework, I got to go think about that.
Now you got to go think about that.
But I'm not going to change my name. That's not my homework.
I'm going to figure out a way to get into. Matter of fact, I think I can. Never mind.
What?
Nothing. You don't need.
You are not changing my voicemail. I will shut it down. I will change my phone number and not tell you what my phone number is.
You know what? You want me to change it to?
What?
This is Mrs. Michael Yiannopoulos.
Oh gosh, don't even go there. That I cannot take.
Mr. and Mrs. Michael Yiannopoulos.
Why do you get to have your name? I mean, just say Michael and Beth or Mr. Michael and Mrs. Beth. I know it doesn't flow, but I'm just saying these are all societal norms, and I get it, but it bothers me.
As the head of the household.
Oh, please. Come on now. I don't like this idea that like the woman is like the second all the time, you know, when you're going to flip flop it. We birthed the children. The children should end up with our name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yiannopoulos. All right.
We won't do that in the poll question. What if I just got so controversial we lose listeners?
Well, we'd have to have listeners first. But no, we broke through some more countries. We're getting more cities. And shout out to Oak Grove, Ohio. Is that right? They're number 3 on our listening list.
Which I was wondering, is that my friend that we'll call Marissa? I don't know technically if that
I'd like to think we have more than one listener there, but maybe.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just look and I'm like, maybe one of my friends was traveling.
The one friend that lives near this city is listening to us on replay.
Yes, exactly.
Day after day.
Yeah, exactly. They just keep listening because they love us that much.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the new poll question will be up soon. I'll say the podcast comes out. You'll listen to this. It came out on Saturday, or it comes out on Saturday. We'll usually put the podcast question up by Monday. Just kind of spread it out a little bit, and then you can make your vote. Analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Is it something you have or not, or you're not sure?
Yes.
So
I do like
two of those
that.
answers mean you do.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Until next time, everybody. This is Mike,
This is Death.
and we'll see you next week.